All right. Well, hey, today we got a real interesting segment and module. I'm just privileged to have Gary Lowe, who's going to be on here. Gary, welcome. It's great to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm really excited to be here with you.
So a little introduction on Gary, and I'll let him talk a little bit about himself. But Gary is has a heart and a passion for helping people out with finances and helping them out in that area. And he has a tool and a resource to do it. And we're going to spend some time walking through that. But, one of the things when we look at buying your first rental property or scaling, one of the things or a wall that people can hit is just getting finances in order. And it's something that, we all have finances, we all have to manage our money. And yet we live in a society that pushes consumerism and pushes all sorts of stuff. And, we have a lot of factors weighed against us. And many people may have room for improvement, or maybe things are a little out of whack, or maybe really out of whack. So Gary's going to spend some time going through a tool that he has. He has an LLC called Living Within Your Means LLC, which I think is just a great name, Gary. Love that name because it's so appropriate. It doesn't, as you know, Gary, it doesn't matter how many zeros you have, but if you don't control your spending to what you're making, it'll get out of whack for anybody, won't it?
Oh, yes, Scott. It's not how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep.
Absolutely. Hey, so Gary, before we jump into this, give everybody just a little bit of your backstory and share that, and then we can kind of jump into the tool and resources you've got here.
Sure. So my name is Gary Lowe, and I'm the founder of Living Within Your Means. I've been in financial services for about 39 years. Started in auto finance and moved into mortgage finance and stayed there for 22 years. So very familiar with real estate. I've had my foot in the real estate business and investing side. Had 11 properties. I made several mistakes, which brought me to where I am today. Teaching people not to make the same mistakes that I did, and organization is truly the key. And my niche and my specialty is really helping people get their financial picture in order so that they're able to move forward and strategize with something bigger and better.
That's awesome. Gary, it's just a privilege to have you here and to walk through this. And for those of you that are watching this, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, identifying the problem, categorizing it, breaking it out, and putting numbers and categories so you can begin to grasp it and then make the tweaks that are needed. And so having somebody like Gary and his services is just such a tremendous resource. And I'm sure there are going to be many people that are really going to benefit with that. So what Gary did is he had me log in to his system. And I will tell you, I've done a quick cursory overview, but I haven't gone through in great detail. So he's just going to kind of walk me through different things. And Gary, I'm going to kind of turn the floor over to you, since you're a pro here, to kind of lead me where you want me to go and really demonstrate the tool that you have available. And before we do that, just a quick tangent. Gary and I met each other through a group called Cash Flow Tactics that we're both associated with. Gary has helped many people in the organization, many people get their finances in order so they can buy their first property and their second and begin scaling. So Gary's just got a tremendous track record. He and I had visited together before, and when I heard his background, it's just always done professionally and business-wise. You're talking with a very talented, smart guy who really wants to help people out and really is here to serve. And Gary, it's just great to be with you. Thanks so much for all you do for so many people, because as I do, that getting your financial house in order really makes a lot of other aspects of life easier and smoother. It really helps bless other areas of our lives.
Yeah, so true, Scott. Well, I'll tell you, it's exciting to be here, and it's exciting to talk about this part of getting started in this venture. What I find is exciting about that is most people When asked if they are organized financially, most will say no. If they don't spend much time in that area, if they have enough money to pay the bills, they're okay. So, starting out here, it's really all about getting everything into one place and giving you a place where you can actually keep score as to whatever it is you're trying to do. So most of my clientele, I work with two types of people. The first type is people that are really struggling. They're behind the eight ball. They have a lot of debt. They're unorganized or not real focused on how to get out of that. So the first thing that I do with folks is I get them organized by providing them with a tool. And this is the tool, Scott. So I'll walk you through on how we set it up. And as we go along, you'll meet my second type of person, which is somebody like you. An investor who's out there doing lots of things, and organization is just as important to that person as it is the person starting out.
I could agree more, and I'd be the first one to admit I've got personally strengths when it comes to investing, and I've got some areas to shore up and improve as well. So Gary, walk me through what you want to share with everybody. This is going to be an overview. It's obviously not going to go into every detail of every aspect, but it's going to be an overview of a tool that you can have access to. And so at the end of this, I'll be providing Gary's contact information, how you can reach out to him. If you need this, you now have a resource available to you to do this. And so that's really one of the big missing pieces, is this whole course on how to do this. But if you don't get this one important piece in place, you can't move forward. So today, you're going to know you do have a resource, one that's great at this, one that's helped many, many people get a handle on this and begin to master their own finances. So Gary, take it away.
Awesome. So Scott, I'll ask you a couple of questions as we get started. I know the answers to these questions, but if you're okay with it, please answer in this recording.
Sure.
Scott, do you consider yourself to be pretty organized financially?
Pretty organized. I have an idea with things that are going on. I probably have a few more accounts than the average person to keep track of.
Scott, people that are important in your life, are they in tune with where you are financially? If something were to happen with you, is there a succession path?
Great question. I recently made sure that I emailed over to my oldest daughter, who happens to be involved in my holding company for my real estate, kind of a summary of everything. So she has equity, debt, mortgages, numbers. And then my youngest daughter helps me with my books, and she knows a lot of my passwords to a lot of the accounts. So I would say they're not in the dark. Do I have 100% of it covered? No, I'm probably 85 to 90%.
Great. Well, think of this as I go along here, Scott. If you notice, you're in the home page of the system, and this really covers everything. When you enter data into this system, this is where it will populate. So if you notice, you've put something in there regarding your property. If you scroll down the page, you'll see where that is. It's under properties on the left-hand side. If you scroll down, you'll see you listed a property there with a value. So every piece of data that you put into this system is going to populate to this area. So what the system is capable of doing is connections to your accounts, where all transactions from banking will come into the system. So therefore, from an organizational standpoint, you'll have history so that you'll be able to identify where gaps are in your strategy. So the most important thing in getting started with this system is really getting it set up and to understand each area and why it needs to be set up. So if you scroll up to the top, Scott, you're going to see an organizer tab. And this is really where everything starts. If you click on the organizer tab, as you heard when I asked that question about whether or not you feel you are organized, this system is capable, and really is purpose is to do a complete inventory of your life. I don't know if you heard this stuff, but last year I had a fire in my home, and unfortunately everything was lost. It was a total loss from the standpoint of contents. And one of the things I learned very valuable here is insurance. Being
Wow.
aware of the things that you have that have value, it is very, very important to identify them and have them in a place where you are organized, whether it's with receipts, whether it's with pictures, whatever it is. But that was the hardest thing. And it took so much time to go through the inventory of our home to identify what value there was as far as contents. So it
I
was a
can
pretty
imagine.
interesting process, and I learned a lot from it.
I can imagine. Sorry, I didn't know you had a fire. I
Yeah,
can only imagine when I just think of, I've got a house with 3 levels and what's in every room, and then what do I have squirreled away where? I mean, it would be kind of a rabbit trail to try and unpack that and make it organized after a fire. That'd be challenging.
well, and then you learn an awful lot about going through that insurance process when you go through it. So, on another
Absolutely.
note, Scott, if you ever want some advice in that area, I'll certainly help you.
I appreciate
I've
that,
learned a
Gary.
lot. So go ahead, scroll down to the bottom of this page, Scott. You'll see there's an area called property.
Okay.
This is pretty much where I start off with everybody. Understand property has to do with real estate, properties that you own, as well as contents. So, money under the mattress, gold, silver, things that you're holding in hand. This is a great place to take that inventory and get everything listed. As you can see, you clicked on primary residence here. This is where everything you put in the system will have its own little section. So, everything tied to it, if you have liabilities like mortgages, insurances, all of those things will connect to each account inside the system. So really what you're doing is building a tree of everything that you have and having it for what purpose it's there. Does that make sense?
It does. No, this is really cool. I can see it's pretty comprehensive. It's got the basics on the left, right? With that, and then liabilities, insurance. And then it looks like if there are other documents that I want to add on there, I can add anything I want that's tied to the home.
Absolutely, Scott. You understand, in the world of mortgages, going back and having your history and all of your properties, your assets and liabilities, they're going to ask for all of those documents when you go to apply. This is an easy place to keep those documents at hand, so that if you're in a ready to go type investor and you really want to dive right in, it saves. That's the hardest part of getting into this investing business, is getting in front of lenders and presenting your picture. So
Yeah.
this system will keep you organized with that. It has unlimited storage as far as putting in contents, as far as documents, pictures, recordings. You can do all of those things. So the setup here, I try to explain to people that the easiest way to approach this is to look at everything that you have and get it into one place. So starting off with properties, if you have a large portfolio, obviously it takes time to set these things up, and this is really where I come in. I do probably 10 or 15 of these a week, and when I do this with people, I ask them, don't feel as if you're on your own. I'm going to work with you and help you set this up. So in your case, Scott, you have multiple properties like you do. It does take time to set up, and most people are running a spreadsheet. So I take that information, help them get it started into the system, set it all up, so that when they come into it, they're able to work with it and it makes sense.
And the way this works, if I understand correctly, I set it up, and as I grow, initially there's a little setup time to get things done. But then if I add a property, I'm just going and adding one property and everything else is saved. So there's a lot on the front end, kind of getting the information into the system. But in terms of on a go forward, it gets a lot easier, because if you get a car or a property, you add that one asset here and everything else is already carrying over. And I'm assuming it's saved somewhere up in the cloud, so it's accessible at all
Yeah,
times, right?
absolutely. Unlimited storage, as much you can't overload it. It'll handle anything that you put into it. All of your banking, as far as accounts, credit cards, brokerage accounts, mortgages, anything that you have a username and password to, can connect to the system, and you'll have an automatic feed to that.
Cool.
So
That's neat.
what really gets this going, Scott? When most people are introduced to me, usually I start off very, very slow, very, very simple. It's all about understanding truly the flow of money. So in your life, Scott, I know that you are a W-2 employee,
Yep,
as well as having your business ventures on the outside. So typically what I'll start off with in that organizer tab, if you want to go back there, Scott,
sure.
just on right above primary residence, you can click on go back to organizer.
Oh, okay, got it.
Or you can click on the organizer tab. Many ways to get to places.
Okay,
So Scott, you'll notice people there. People is also a place to put in beneficiaries. So any family that are connected to you, it gets added into the system, and anything that is a pass on beneficiary type is connected to that person. So all of these things come together as you enter data, it will grow. It's a dynamic system based on you using the system and entering data into it as you go along.
and Gary, I just want to say, I see professional contacts. I think I shared with you, I lost my mom about a month ago or so, and I would tell you, trying to piece together things, we didn't have all the pieces. So there was a trust document and there were accounts. The trust was formed back in 1995. So a lot of the financial advisors she had passed away. So I can see having something like professional contacts where you could put, hey, here's my CPA, here's my financial advisor, my estate planning. That would be nice, because my brothers and I, over the last few weeks, have been making phone calls to all sorts of places. I mean, there's a CD out there that we can't even track where it is. We have no idea where it is. So I can't be the only person to have come into that situation. And it's frustrating, but worse than that, my mom was a frugal German, very, very frugal, just she knew how to live with below her means. And so I would hate for there to be something that's just floating around that goes over to some state because we can't find it, that she would love to have going down to her grandkids or something. So anyway, I think that's really cool to have that in there. And it's just, you had the fire example, I had the one of somebody passing, and there are a lot of different examples where it's good to have a central source for everything like this.
And by the way, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
Tough. So professional contacts, absolutely. This is again, it's a Rolodex. You can enter as much data in there as you want about particular places, particular people. As you can see, Ryan Lee, you know who he is. He's the advisor associated to this system. So from a standpoint of a license, this is a fiduciary responsibility. So no passing on of data. This is private to us, meaning that this data is not going to go anywhere further. So with that being said, Scott, if you click on the account tab over there on the left.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
This is where you will set up your accounts. So how I typically start off is, income accounts. Where does money go when you receive it? And then from there, any accounts as far as savings, brokerage accounts, anything like that can be added and connected. As you can see, I threw in a Bank of America in here. It's really simple to connect an account. You just click on the actual repair tab there, and you'll see what's underneath there, Scott.
So you want me to click on repair?
Yeah, go ahead and click on that. But in entering an institution, you will see add accounts on the right-hand side. It will take you through a walkthrough of what you do to add.
Okay.
Do you see that tab on the top right? Add accounts?
Top right.
Yeah, it's probably underneath your picture.
Oh, it probably is. I've got to move where the pictures are. Yep, here we go. I'll move us down. Here we go. Add accounts. Got it.
Right. So this is the process. If you have an account or if you have online access to your accounts, you can connect them. If you don't have online access, you can put them in manually. So think of the accounts that you don't have online access to, really just placeholders to know that you have it. And the other accounts are really, it is dynamic, meaning your transactions as they happen, it's real time. The system will stay up to date. It updates just like banks do at the end of days. You can refresh and push an update on your own once an account is connected. So you'll have real-time data once things are connected. I tell people to start simple, by entering your cash accounts like checking and saving, enter any credit cards that you're using. And once those things happen, Scott, if you do connect accounts, the spending tab in that menu becomes live. So once there's an
Okay,
account put into the system that has transactional history, that spending tab in your menu will open up and become live. That's
okay.
where all of the day-to-day activity, that's where budgeting, that's where organization from the standpoint of categorization, understanding business and personal, understanding credit card flow, all of that happens by having an account connected to the system and having those transactions populate. What happened?
Gary, something,
We
so what
got
happens when you
timed
go
out?
live. We'll keep going. I'm gonna come back in here. Here we go.
Your
We're coming back. I think
your
it was on my,
security came back.
it wasn't the software, it was me. Where you want me to go back to,
No, you're okay. And again,
okay.
I'm just explaining, once you make connections inside that organizer tab by setting up accounts, it'll populate to this homepage. And that spending tab will then become live. So what's underneath that spending tab? You'll see if you do make a connection, but under the spending tab is where budget comes into, it's where transactional history is. That's where all reports are pulled.
Hey,
So
Gary, I see when I look at the homepage, it shows my net worth only 350,000. Is there a way I can add a zero to that to get a 3.5 million?
sure,
Okay,
any way you want.
that's a better net worth.
Absolutely. So again, as you can see, we put one property in there. The value was 350,000. That's what's making up the net worth. You know, we put liabilities against that. That's going to deduct net worth. You know, Scott, we don't live off of net worth numbers. We live off of cash flow, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the mantra. But, I will tell you, being able to look at the net worth, I mean, you're right. We live off of cash flow, but it's nice to have a system that automatically shows, you got the asset, subtracts the liability, and makes this very easy, because obviously, it is a metric, a measurement, net worth. It's not how we live. Cash flow is how we live day to day. But I know some financial people say, looking at your cash flow and your net worth is a really good way to keep on top of your finances. People that grow those things tend to look at these metrics, right?
Absolutely.
What you measure, you pay attention to.
Absolutely. It is. It's all about keeping score and having that true goal, knowing where you want to go, Scott, right?
Yep,
If you know
absolutely.
where you want to go, you may not get there fast, but at least you're heading in the direction you want to go. And that's really what this is all about.
Well, and progress is progress. Frankly, a lot of people that don't have a system like this are either treading water or they're slowly falling behind. So having a tool and a resource that says, okay, here we got a baseline, and now we're going to incrementally get better and better. That's so much more than a lot of people have. So many people struggle and drowned in debt and play games of, robbing Peter to pay Paul, or, open up a new credit card that says zero interest. They put stuff over there. And so the habits don't go away, and good habits don't replace bad habits. And they find themselves a year later right where they were, or maybe a little farther behind, and maybe even frustrated because they want to get out, they want to make progress. So this is that's why I'm so excited about this, Gary, of having both a mentor like you and having this sort of software that can do so much and can accommodate as somebody grows, right? So you're saying I could put all my properties in here and it's just adding another tab and it summarizes it. That's excellent. It grows with you.
Portfolio growth. This is what it will track. Scott, if you look at the menu there, you'll see a vault. I know you understand the word vault from the insurance standpoint, but this is a document vault. This document vault is unlimited storage. I help people set this up. There's two areas inside of this. The first area is that my private document area. That area is completely private to you. Only your username and password can see anything behind that. That shared document area is open to your team. So if you have a team of people that you work with, we can create usernames and passwords and set up different folders for those teammates. So for example, lenders. I spend a lot of time in this area getting people organized so that they can apply and get ready for applying for a mortgage, so that when they do find an investment property, they can dive right in and go. So this shared document area, I set it up just like a file cabinet. I set up different folders for the different things that you're going to need for mortgages. This is an area that you can drop documents into, and when you're ready to apply, you're able to upload those documents right to the lender. So if you had relationship with lenders, and I know you do with several, you can actually give your lenders username and password so that they can get into their folder. And as you're working with them, you can be uploading documents and corresponding with them within the system.
Wow, that's really pretty cool, especially when you do different properties and different lenders, having one place where they can go in and you don't have to recreate the wheel in terms of providing everything all over again.
I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've had it happen to me many times as I've gone through finance, is that you're sending documents to multiple places, especially if you're buying multiple properties in different areas. You're sending your documents to several places, and unfortunately, these systems are set up so that the lenders are able to gather documents because you're uploading to them. Most people do this in a very rushing manner. They grab documents, they scan them, they send them to the lenders, and then they throw them back into a folder. This system gives you the ability to get set up, organized completely, so that as you're adding, and you know in this business, especially as in building a portfolio, that you could be buying multiple properties in a year. You know, it's not like you're buying one every 3 years. You're buying, you know, usually game plans are set up to buy multiple properties in a given year. So these documents, you know, that you're adding into the system, as well as making these purchases, everything carries forward. So, you know, think about it, Scott. I know you have a lot of properties, and every time you apply with a lender, if it's a new lender, you have to provide all of those documents from the start again and get that package set up so that they're able to work with you. Here it's real simple, especially when it comes to shopping. If you're looking for quotes from different lenders, this is an easy way to do it without, you know, spreading yourself thin and passing your documents all over the place. So you can keep things.
Oh, I love it. Gary, that's a really cool feature to have them there, and then I let the lenders just go in and take a peek without having to re-upload it every single time. That's cool.
Well, the other part of this that comes into you know, great purpose is taxes. I mean, Scott, you know, the reason why you're buying real estate, it's obviously to get the benefits that real estate provides as far as the Uncle Sam is concerned. So, you know, people, I find, especially this time of the year, my phone rings off the hook because most people are not organized. And, you know, when their accountant, or if they're dealing with a new accountant or a new CPA, you know, they're wondering what to gather. How do I gather it? How do I know that I have this right information? So if you set up this system and you run your accounts through this, all of your transactions are here. Spreadsheets are made instantaneously through the system. You're able to gather that data and provide it to an accountant. Very simple. And the way you're structuring the system, really what I help people do is set up so that the categories and all of their transactions fall into the right place so that they're able to pull a report monthly and provide that to an accountant or a bookkeeper. So lots of ways to use this system. I'm not going to say that it's a true tax accounting system, but it does everything those tax accounting systems do other than do your taxes.
Okay, well, excellent. That's great.
So
that's great.
You know, and it really does come down to, you know, the hand holding. I mean, mint.com, there's all kinds of financial systems out there, and I'm not going to say that one's better than any other. It really comes down to who supports it. You know, you work with a mint.com system, you know, you're at the mercy of their support. Are they involved in your life? Do they know what your situation is? Do they know what your strategies that you're following? You know, it's so much better to have somebody one-on-one with you, has no other motive than to keep you organized, to keep you following the, you know, the processes that are set up. And, you know,
Gary, I think that's a huge benefit of you personally, what you offer. I mean, we've all had the frustration of calling a place, you know, and we go overseas for support, or we file a ticket, or somebody sends us to some online portal and says, look for your problem out of these, you know, 200 solutions. And at the end of the day, you know, we much prefer having the personal touch, somebody that's there. And I think somebody like you, who's seasoned, experienced, great business savvy and great financial savvy, and also, you've also got kind of a patient approach too, right? You really lead people through it. So you understand all this, but you enjoy seeing people get on the right track and start getting some results. That is a night and day better experience than, putting a ticket in and waiting 24 hours when you're spending the night trying to figure it out. To have that personal touch, to me, that's a game changer right there.
Well, I feel like I'm a part of your team, Scott, and I live by that. So if you're succeeding, I'm excited for that success. So
Well, excellent. And that, and likewise, you play a real valuable role, particularly in the people that are just getting going and they've got a little hurdle to get over before they're at a point where they can save up that down payment for the first property. And we know, you and I know from practical experience, there's so many people that want to get in the game and improve their finances. They want to buy an investment property and another, but they've got this real practical roadblock of how do I get the financial house straightened out and in order, and how do I get in a place where I can see all the moving parts to begin to manage it better and more efficiently. And I think that's where both this tool, this portal, and having your expertise, which I think is kind of the secret sauce, because you can say, look, here's a real life experience, here's probably what you should do in that situation. Having your guidance, I think, is a huge benefit. You're not going to get that from a static program because spreadsheets don't give you that input, right? They're just numbers and data sitting around, but having a little bit of the personal touch, saying, hey, here's what you probably want to tackle first. That's something that I think a lot of people will benefit from.
Right. I am truly all about foundation, Scott, and that's really what my focus is, to help somebody understand whether or not they have a solid foundation, or whether or not they need work in that area. You shouldn't get into investing without a solid foundation. Of course, you're going to set yourself up for problems down the road if you're not ready and understanding what it is truly you have to do. So,
Yep, absolutely.
Again, my niche, I work with people from, I guess I'd have to say my true specialty is in the debt area, people that are overwhelmed with debt. I get very excited to work with somebody that, has a handle there and they are trying to grow. This just puts it in view to them, and it gives them an organizational view to really understand what capability is. I don't know how many times I've been in front of a financial advisor asking the question to a client of what is their capability, and the client truly cannot answer that question without guessing. There's no solid facts there. And I have to say, before anybody meets with an advisor, they really should be organized like this. Having everything in one place and being able to have a consultative conversation with whoever is trying to service you. Great way to identify whether or not a resource is a good resource, by having them understand truly what your facts are, and then for them to be able to give you a proposition that fits the strategy.
Yeah.
So cash flow tactics has been wonderful to work with, because game plans are set up. People truly know what it is they want to do. And now it's just a matter of getting them organized to see where the gaps are. And this definitely helps them do that.
And just a little color on what Gary said there. So, I've been with cash flow tactics for 4+ years. Gary's been involved, but when you hear the term a game plan, without, in the community, we know what that means. What that means is a roadmap for you as a person to start knocking out your next target. So a game plan would be, what are you going to do next to begin to grow your financial base and scale? And that consists of a number of different components. There's certainly real estate's a piece of it. There are some other financial tools called a vault that work in conjunction with real estate. So there's a lot to that, but I would say, that made the big difference for me. Gary, I met with Ryan, the guy who's right here on the screen. He was my first game plan, and we talked, and he gave me an idea of some things, and that kind of set me down a whole path of growing and scaling that I would not have done otherwise. So I'm tremendously grateful for that initial kick in the butt and the focus, and now I kind of set my own game plan, every year, and I kind of cue it up. But it's really a cool thing. And not many people really have that opportunity, I don't think, of really sitting down and saying, where am I? Where do I want to go? And having kind of a mentor to lay out the roadmap to begin to go that direction. That's pretty cool.
It's so true. It's where you are today, Scott, is, that's a hard question to answer. Most people think they know, but when it comes down to understanding truly what it is you have and truly what it is you want, this is the picture. I mean, in your situation, Scott, I would love to have seen your first game plan and to also see the review of what you do every year, because that first game plan was certainly much different than where you are now.
I kind of went off the rails a little bit, but oh well,
But it's funny, in cash flow tactics, how many people have you seen do that? You're certainly not the only ones. So many people have come in with the thought that it was going to take them years to get to that starting point, and they're doing it in very fast time frames.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
because.
Yeah, you and I could think of name after name after name of people that have done that. And part of it's just being in a community of supportive people that to give that focus and that clarity. So Gary, are there other aspects you want to walk through here with me?
Well, I guess what I'd like to say to you, Scott, and to the people that are listening or will listen, the system, this is not about selling. I'm not selling anything here. This is an organizational tool. I'll certainly run down what the cost associated with this is. It's $180 a year. So most people, when they come into the system, I'm going to spend 3 months with them. They can jump on my calendar as often as they want based on a break. So, I've met with people 3-4 times a week just to get them set up quickly. So
wow.
usually it'll take, anywhere from a month to 60 days in getting everything in here and organized and cleaned up and ready. But, like I said, it's an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. And, usually 3 months, that 90 days is what it takes for a client to really get familiar with this and build that habit button, and coming in here and doing what they're supposed to do on a regular basis. So,
well, and I would tell you, for that fee to have not only the system, but to have you as a mentor, I would bet that most people spend a whole lot more than that on credit card interest on an annual basis. In fact, I'd say 98% of people, a pretty high number, spend more than that. And certainly if I throw in car payments, between car payments and credit cards. So that's an unbelievably very bargain. It's a bargain. I mean, I don't know how to say it. That's a tremendous rate for all this value. So Gary, that's a tremendous amount of value. And I want to say to everybody watching this, hopefully you get a sense of Gary's approach and his heart for this, that he really enjoys helping people out. He likes to help people. That's his gift and his passion in the area of finances and getting everything documented, under control, and then helping them out. He and I talked about some mutual friends that we have, and we were just chatting before we started recording this and just talking about how they're progressing, and he wants nothing more than to see people move ahead and see the stress go down, see the certainty go up, and do that. So Gary, you just have a patient way about you, just a gentle spirit. And I know when it comes to finances, so many people, it's easy to be intimidated or feel a little embarrassed or go, ooh, that's not too pretty. And you've seen it all before. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, that's where you're starting. What needs to be done to get it under control. So Gary, let me kind of wrap up, and I want to respect your time. How do people track you down and get a hold of you to do this? So how do they reach out to you?
So Scott, as I mentioned, my real niche is in the debt space. So I have a website. It's called weightlessfinancial.com. And waitlistfinancial.com/living within your means, abbreviated. So LWYM. And that will bring you to my website. You'll see my calendar there. You can schedule one-on-one time with me. The website will go through all the things that I do with debt. I have some very, very exciting programs for people that are struggling with debt. I focus on traditional ways of paying off debt. I set people up with that. And again, based on the time frame that it will take for somebody to get out of debt is when I would open up doors to other options. So depending upon somebody's situation and where they're at and where their struggles are, there's so many things out there that people can really make a difference in. They don't have to struggle through things. There's really ways, if they're open and they're not afraid to talk about their situation and their problems, it's amazing the resources that are out there to help. So,
absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I put in the notes clear cut. So I've got also an email for you, just his name, Gary at livingwithinyourmeans.org is a way to reach out. And then I'll put the URL for people to be able to reach out to you in the notes. Anything else you want to wrap up with, Gary?
Scott, all I can say is thank you so much for letting me be here. And really, if there's anything I can do to help with your people, please don't hesitate. I'm here.
Well, thank you. I'm excited. Thank you for being willing to jump out here. Thank you for being willing to help people. I think you provide just a tremendous resource to people that if they don't have it, they may not be able to move forward in a game plan. And so you just have such a valuable skill set, knowledge, heart, empathy, passion, and can help people out. So I couldn't be more excited to have a resource like you available. I think anybody that needs this, or even if you think you need it, reach out to Gary, and he could be just a great resource for you. So Gary, thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Scott. You be well. Take care.